We are back with another AI model, open source, free, and better than DeepSeek, better than ChatGPT, better than Clarke 3.5. Here is everything you need to know about Alibaba's latest model, Quan 2.5, including all of the hot takes, what this really means for the AI industry, and how you can start to use it today. And is it really comparable to O1? I'll give you an exact prompt and I will show you the side-by-side comparison to see if it is worth using for your work. And did I mention it is free? All of that and more on this episode of Marketing Against the Grain. I'm Kieran, your co-host. Let's get into today's show. Okay, we have another open source model from China, this time Alibaba, and it's called Qwen. So we are just trying to digest all of the news from DeepSeek. I just did a video breaking down DeepSeek. What is it? How you use it? How it's comparable to the ChatGPT, OpenAI, O1 models, including their reasoning models, right? It was a really huge deal because this model came out of nowhere. It cost a fraction of the price of OpenAI's models. It's actually free. It's open source, so we can see how they built it. And it was a big moment within the kind of AI space, right? All of the AI chip providers, their stock got crushed. NVIDIA and all these other chip providers, their stock got crushed. Why? Because DeepSeek said, hey, we trained on way fewer chips than all of these American models, and we've given you just the equivalent kind of power. And so everyone's been trying to like wrap their heads around DeepSeek, this DeepSeek R1 model, open source from China, and that was about a week ago, and that has been the talk of the internet. Their mobile app was #1 in App Store, which is actually pretty incredible when you think about it. It really went viral. And just as we're trying to get our heads around what this means for the AI space, we have a new model from Alibaba. We have Qwen 2.5, and guess what? It is equivalent, if not better, than DeepSeek, than ChatGPT's O1 models, than Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And it's another free open source model. You can go to the website today and sign up and to start using it. In this video, I want to give you some of the chat that's been happening online around this model's capabilities, some examples of it in action, and I want to test it with one of the kind of advanced prompts that I use to basically do my work against O1 Pro, which is ChatGPT's $200 a month model. So you can see it actually in action and see a real comparable. But let's kind of jump into some of the news here. Okay, here's one of the kind of breakdowns here. It's from Ruben Hassad, and he has some really great takes on some really great updates on AI. He is the founder of EasyGen.io. And so he talks a lot about here kind of the breakdown of Qwen 2.5 from Alibaba. You know, it can code, it can write text, it can search the web. The big thing is it's multimodal, right? It can generate images, it can even generate videos. And so we're going to get into a little bit of that. Some of the things maybe just to call out in terms of what he talks about, and I won't go into the technicalities as much as I'll just go into the actual use cases and some of the interesting things you can do with it. It actually is able to handle a lot of different documentation. And so that seems kind of a small thing, but it's actually a pretty big thing. Some of the other models, I'm looking at Claude specifically, but even OpenAI's O1 reasoning model cannot handle a whole range of different documentations. And this one claims to be able to handle and parse many more different types of documentations. It can actually handle, has large context windows, can handle large amounts of video. It's open source. And so we're going to get through a little bit of that. But like basically you can go and actually, very similar to DeepSeek, go and basically look to see how this is built, and people can kind of quickly build on top of it. It talks about how it has been trained. All of that is contained within the open source papers, but this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit. So Qwen 2.5 Max is the red bar here, and these are the different benchmarks that models are graded against. And you can see DeepSeek V3 is the blue, and then you have Llama, you have GPT-4, you have Claude 3.5. So you can see in some cases, it's performing on par, if not even better on some of these benchmarks. And if you look at Quan and DeepSeek together, they're pretty equivalent to these paid models from these US companies. And I think that is starting to blow people's brains, which is, wow, these models are free models. We can start to use them, and it puts a lot of pressure on the other AI companies who are currently charging for equivalent access to equivalent models. And I want to go through what that really means at the end of this video.
The thing I've learned about AI is that it works best when you treat it like a collaborator, not just a tool. It's there to help you get moving, it sparks ideas, and it makes starting just about anything 100 times easier. Now, to help you tap into the potential of AI, we've worked with our friends at Mindstream, an amazing AI newsletter. We've teamed up with them to release 1,000 expert-level AI prompts for everything marketing you might ever imagine. When you need some fresh ideas, when you need to adjust your strategies, content creation inspiration, these prompts are designed to make starting and staying creative a whole lot easier. Get it right now at the link in the description below. Now back to today's show.
Okay, I wanted to go into one more kind of thread, which I thought was a pretty great breakdown when I was going through this early in my morning today. And so this is obviously you have to start with a hot take. People, if you're going to do content, you need to have that hot take. I do think the kind of hot takeification of everything is a bad thing. I would love to be able to get back to just some normality in content, but you have to do that today. But actually the content here is really good. So talks about the fact that we're going to get into actually run across and look at these different models, because there's a bunch of different models you can pick when you go and sign up for an account in Qwen. Probably pronouncing this pretty wrong, I would say, but everyone knows who really watches this podcast, its pronunciation is like my worst skill set. And so it's trained on a massive amount of data. It uses special techniques to learn better and performs as well as top models. And so again, in a future episode, I might get into some of the specifics in how they train this model. It is open source, so I do think you can go read about this today. I'm coming at you live after looking at this morning, and so some of this will have to be follow-up episodes because I haven't dug into the papers yet. But it does beat V3. We looked at some of these benchmarks in the Arena Hard Live benchmark and GP QA Diamond benchmark. So we kind of looked at those benchmarks just previously, and you could see again that it performed on par with other models, and in some cases was better than DeepSeek. The models are available in Hugging Face and Model Scope. Again, they are kind of open source. And so one of the things I said when I did the video on DeepSeek is, I think this is going to increase the pace of evolution in terms of custom models that are available for people, because now you actually have these great foundational models you can just quickly build on and craft for your audience. And I do think that companies are going to start to take a bunch of these open source models and actually add proprietary ways to train them for their audience and have like custom models. I think that's really important because it does make me believe, and I have always believed, that we are going to see companies use a whole mix of different models, including custom models and a lot of open source models to do their work. And that's going to put pressure on some of the conglomerates, because you may not have just like one single model like an OpenAI, because that is not the best model for all of the different tasks that you have. And so I do think what we're seeing is this evolution on how models will likely be used within companies. Talks a little bit here about the key AI test. So there's like a good little interview here that we could probably quickly get into, because it's a pretty good snippet on how how it outperforms these other models.
Man, Alibaba's just dropped their latest version of Qwen 2.5. So this is DeepSeek, followed by Qwen. This is now a much bigger issue. It's not just about China, US. This is about open source versus closed source. What are they promising at Alibaba?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I guess this kind of plays the point I just said, that, you know, the AI market is evolving at a really rapid pace. And yeah, we've seen this with the Qwen model. I think right now it's too early.
I was pronouncing it right after all.
To say, but obviously the headlines from Alibaba that this new model outperforms the DeepSeek model across a whole range of kind of industry standard benchmarks now. There's a lot of gaming of these benchmarks, so I think we'll have to wait perhaps a matter of hours or days whilst engineers get their hands on this new Alibaba model.
It performs better than DeepSeek across a bunch of these benchmarks that we've said before. The interesting thing is he said something very interesting there, which is like some of this stuff is gamed, and there are numerous takes you can go read on that, but there is some validity to the fact that there is ways that AI companies can actually game if you pre-train on the data that you're actually being tested on. Now, I won't go into that because I don't know enough about to have a really hard point of view, but I think it's going to have to play out over time how good these models really are and comparable to others. If you saw Sam Altman's quotes recently, he would tell you that OpenAI are still much further ahead in terms of their models and the models they're going to release. But he specifically said, Sam, in a tweet yesterday, that they were going to rapidly release their models quicker than they had originally planned because of the pressure they're being put under by these companies. And that comes back to what I said, which is the pace of evolution in the sophistication of models is going to just go faster. It's going to go faster. And I think we're going to see the large companies come out with models much faster than they had planned. And we're going to see companies start to fine tune and customize models much more than we had thought. Go through some of the use cases that I'll go through, but like much of them are equivalent if you've used O1 Pro or even Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's going to feel pretty much similar in terms of the things that it's really good at. And again, that it's a free model. It can create like some really great images. I want to get into that because its DALL-E competitor is really actually good. And surprisingly good, but it also has a Sora competitor because it has video as well. Let's get into the actual images. I will just stop here because I have noticed as it can scan and synthesize information better than most AI models. Like it is able to, that's one of the things that I'm going to show you, one of the use cases. It is able to really have like clear and concise takeaways from large amounts of data from the small amount that I have managed to use it this morning. Here is one of the videos she generated. I don't know how people are generating videos because I don't have access to videos yet. So I don't know if it's because of my European status, but I can't get video. I can get images, but here's a nice example of the video. It's not bad. Like a guy trading Nvidia stock on his computer. You know, the really annoying thing is I was going to buy Alibaba stock and then they came out with this and now there's no point. So that sucks. All right, so here's one of the videos here. I think it's like pretty good, right? Like free equivalent to Sora. I actually think it's now I will say when you do the nature, like the realistic Sora, when you ask like these video models to do some sort of nature or anything like that, they usually look really good. Where they go really bad is where you have different objects having to interact with each other. And there's some well-known limitations of AI video models of why that happens that, again, I won't go into because I'm not the most technical person to describe why that happens. But I think that's a pretty good example. There's other examples. I will show you one more on the video. One more. So it's this would be the Quan 2.5 Plus. Oh, I've got the wrong model chosen. That's what it is. Let's go back over and I'll generate a little video. So it's really slow but free. Free. A detailed and hyper-realistic scene from a classic King Kong movie, but a massive kitten as Kong terrorizing downtown. So like here we are, pretty kind of cool, right? Like it's pretty good quality. I don't know. This one here is pretty good quality as well. So it has like some fun AI tools, some fun image tools as well. The other thing I just wanted to go before we get into the model itself is if you're looking to like what can this model do, they release these cookbooks. And these cookbooks are kind of cool. So they release these kind of cookbooks, right? People just talk about the performance, but often pay not enough attention to how the model really works. I think this is really great that they're releasing this because I actually want to go through these, which is what I was saying is like, I will probably do a follow-up episode with some of the core technicalities because I have not managed to go through these cookbooks yet. But to help you understand the model, they've made these kind of cookbooks for you. The cookbook includes notebooks for multiple usages. So it actually gives you ideas of how to use the models, including computer use. So they do have the ability to do something similar to like a Claude or OpenAI's operator, where they can actually build something like an agent to use your computer. They have a mobile agent, which we can get into. They have video, and they have like this really, we talked a little about that in the video understanding, the ability to actually understand long form video. So you can ingest a bunch of video and it can understand it and do kind of clear and concise takeaways, or you can interact with that video in interesting ways. So the cookbooks are basically these things, right? So like they have different cookbooks and suggestions on how to actually use the model and how the model worked. And so the computer use agent, I wanted to quickly show you this one because computer use agent has been the talk of the town because it's really the automation of work, and OpenAI's launch probably got the most traction, which is OpenAI's operator, which is an agent that can do things for you, can operate, can complete tasks within a browser. And so if you see here, another example of the strength of these open source models and how much pressure they put on these kind of large AI companies that are trying to charge for a bunch of these features. Basically, Quan 2.5 VL lets you create a $200 a month OpenAI operator like agent for computer and mobile phones. So Two of the cookbooks are the computer use, which is the ability to do things for you, and the mobile agent that comes with this model, which means you can use it on mobile as well. It's 100% open source, and you can see this person here has built a pretty cool agent to be able to go do things on booking.com, go book a flight. So very similar to OpenAI's Operator, but for OpenAI's Operator, you have to spend $200 a month. For this here, you can easily use it for free. And I think that is huge, right? DeepSeek has something very similar. People have been building agents in a similar way for DeepSeek, but DeepSeek obviously has a ton of privacy concerns about it. I have not read into like what the privacy is for Alibaba or where they're sending your data. But again, you can start to use these open source models to replicate a lot of the things that other companies are charging for. All right, lastly, let's just quickly show the model in action. And so let's go over. All right, so let me show you basically what I was doing here. All right, so this is a PDF. Basically, this is a simple use case, which is it's a growth dashboard for a SaaS brand that's PLG. And what it's going to do is help me figure out insights and then put together a plan of how I can continue to grow this business. It's going to isolate the key metrics, look for bottlenecks, and then provide a strategy to actually solve those problems and grow those metrics. So I use this, I've been using this because I'm building a little course that I'm doing a free webinar tomorrow to kind of show the capabilities here. And so I've been using this with O1 Pro, which is the $200 a month from ChatGPT. And so let's go up so we can show the equivalence. And here you see I can have the dashboard, and I basically, this is a prompt. It looks nicer in my Google Doc. Obviously it's unformatted here, but there's a large prompt. And the reason I say a reasoning prompt is because the difference between a reasoning and non-reasoning prompt is the non-reasoning prompt is the traditional kind of prompt where you say you're an analyst, here's a step-by-step thing you need to do. This is exactly the stuff that I want. For a reasoning model, you don't do that because reasoning has the step-by-step logic built into the model itself. Really what you want to do is provide it with the problem you're trying to solve and the output you kind of want, but let it try to figure out how it's going to do that for you. And so this is a reasoning prompt to figure out, this is much more tailored for reasoning engines. And what it does here is it goes through and looks for the metrics that I should focus on if I want to continue to grow this business at 100% year on year. So I want to double ARR. And ChatGPT O1 Pro does a very good job here where it will go through, evaluate all of the metrics, tell me like what are the most important trends that I should be aware of, and then it actually tells me the metrics that I should prioritize to actually hit that number. So I don't want to work on all the metrics, I want to work on the most important. So that's the first part of this, the use case here. The second is to build a forecast model. The third is to actually build a strategy to hit that forecast model. But it's a good equivalence because I do the same thing in Quan. I kind of give it the growth dashboard and then I ask it the same sort of thing, and it does a really good job. Again, this is a free model, so it kind of breaks down the kind of key growth levers. It's kind of very similar. It talks first of all just about the importance of these metrics. So it evaluates acquisition, priority analysis, talks about activation and onboarding, priority analysis, talks about monetization and expansion revenue, priority analysis, retention and churn, very similar, viral. So it talks about each of the ones. And you know what's kind of fun, interesting? It's actually got the exact same core metrics as ChatGPT to prioritize as it. Let's just see, this is kind of interesting. Yeah, conversion rate, yes. Churn, yes. ARPU, yes. User retention rate, referral rate, and activation rate. So it actually deviated for these two. It has referral rate, but doesn't have user retention rate. So it actually, this is the one that it chose activation versus retention, which is interesting. Reasoning impact, let's see. Ensure more user experience core value quickly, boosting accelerates the path from sign up to paying customers, enhancing both activation and conversion metrics. So it does a pretty good job. Same here. Again, this is the first, don't expect it to have the exact strategy because I have not started to prompt that yet. It does a pretty good job of like isolating the core metrics, and then I would ask it to build a forecast model of what these need to be for me to continue to grow at 100%. So I found that the kind of prompts that I've done this morning, the kind of reasoning prompts where I've asked it to work through a strategic problem, is somewhat equivalent to ChatGPT Pro O1. Again, this is like ad hoc, some prompts, not all the things. I'm sure there are cases where they deviate a lot, but for me, it's like pretty similar. And that's not even, that was just a capable of complex. That's just their plus model. They also have the max model, which is their most powerful. So maybe I'll rerun that where I'm showing you I could rerun it in max. Can you rerun this analysis? And we'll do a new chat. Warning, leaving this chat will interrupt the current generation and cannot be resumed. Oh, interesting. You can't do multiple chats at once. Oh, geez. It's going to start to do some pretty dope things, isn't it? Okay, this is I have not used the more powerful. I've not used all of the models because, again, I got access to this morning, which is cool. Me being in Europe, I can actually feel like I have access to things like everyone else. And so I think it's going to it could be the reason, and the really strong models, you really have to have like 5 different steps. Like they have to be quite complex to the point where I would think of it as, when do I need to use a complex reasoning model? Usually when there's like 5 or more steps that model has to run through to complete the objective or goal that you have. And so it could be that the one that I'm given this is going to look very similar to the Qwen 2.5 Plus, because it's really doing analysis and then pulling out core metrics. I think if I had asked it to build the strategy and then create a 2-page memo as the output, it would have to run through multiple different steps, and it would probably the output from Plus and Max would look a lot different, because this is a more powerful model. The more powerful model, the more strategic and more steps it has to run through, the better it's going to be than the model that is like less complex, right? And so the output will deviate a lot, whereas I expect this might actually look kind of similar to the model I had just used. Let's just see if it's got the same thing. Yeah, it's like very, very similar, right? Okay, it's giving me strategic outcome. But anyway, I will say that these models, O1 Pro or maybe Quan, because I have to dig in, are pretty amazing to do like first passes of this stuff. If you have like large amounts of unstructured data, you want to find the core levers and bottlenecks in there. You want to build a forecast model. Then you want it to give you strategic insights into what are the things you should do to continue to solve those core bottlenecks. As a first pass, you still have to do work after that. It's pretty incredible. So the other thing I wanted to look at is an image of a dog having a beer after a hard day's work. I mean, cold beer, half day work. I don't drink, but I'm sure I used to. Cold beer after a hard day work is pretty sweet. Let's just see how good the image is. There you go. The image tool is pretty cool. From everything I've seen online, it's pretty cool. I don't know why I don't have access to the video. I'm actually really interested in going to do that, but I have access to upload all the documents, everything else. So this is a quick introduction to Quan 2.5. And so I'll leave with this. Okay, what has happened over the past week? Well, I think what's happened over the past week is the money has moved from potentially AI models and hardware, although I would put question mark against hardware, which is NVIDIA and these companies that supply the chips. I think their stock is going to go back to where it was, but it's moved to it's moved to the wrapper layer. And originally, when the first wave of AI, everyone, I think also including me, kind of said these wrapper companies are not going to be big companies because they're just templatizing use cases for an audience and just kind of wrapping those templates around these models. And these models eventually will just be able to do all that stuff for you. So they'll just kill the wrapper companies. And I think that's probably true of the very first wave of wrapper companies, that they just were not complex enough, sophisticated enough. And I think we believed, me included, that all of the money would probably be in with these conglomerate models because the models could do all of these use cases for people. What we've seen over the past week is that is not true. It is the model part that is being commoditized. We have 2 incredible models that are now free. Obviously, they have privacy concerns. I have not looked. DeepSeek you would want to run locally on your machine, so it's not sending anything back to the core servers. I have not looked into Alibaba, but you can even get DeepSeek through Perplexity to start using it today. So there are privacy and security reasons you might not be able to use these models within your kind of enterprise use cases. But they are an example that the model layer is being commoditized, and these free models are putting huge pressure on the conglomerates. The conglomerates will have to release models quicker, for cheaper, and probably provide them for free, like OpenAI, I think has already realized, because they're giving away a bunch of the O1 stuff for free. That means the problem to solve is just getting people to use AI and have it be impactful for them. So it's really the use case and how you get it into people's daily habits and workflows. What I see in AI all the time is people think it's magic for the first week. The second week, oh, it's fine, I'll use it now and again. Third, fourth week, they don't use it anymore. That is the hardest thing to actually solve, is integrate an AI in a way where it becomes very useful for people and actually impactful for people. And user habits and workflow changes are the hardest things to actually change, right? And so if you really want people using these models. You have to figure out how to integrate it into their work on a day-to-day basis. And I think what we're going to see is a huge increase in the app layer. The app layer, the apps getting built around AI, and that is where all the money is going to accrue. And that is going to lead to these app companies, small app companies, becoming huge businesses. I talked to a founder recently, multiple times, one of the fastest growing companies in Europe, tiny team growing at eye-watering pace, right? And this is the new kind of startup we're going to see. They're in the app layer. They're doing something really smart in the app layer and making AI easy for people to actually consume and use. And they're growing at record pace, like one of the fastest growing European companies of all time. This is where the money is going. This is what the core takeaway is over from the last week. Play around with Quan. I hope this was useful to get started. We'll be back with some better use cases when we get to dig into it a little bit more, but I hope this was a good jumping off point.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.